The 2024 Bitcoin conference triggered a massive crypto crash, nothing less than a 30% drop, and that happened in just 1 week. So now the question is, could the 2025 Bitcoin conference, which is happening today, cause another collapse in the price of Bitcoin? Back in July 2024, the Bitcoin 2024 conference in Nashville, Tennessee, laid the groundwork for a sharp drop that hit in early August. Bitcoin went from $70,000 all the way down to $49,000. That's a 30% drop in just 7 days. And now, a lot of investors are asking the same question. Are we about to see the same thing happen again with the current conference taking place right now in Las Vegas? This year's event runs from May 27th to May 29th. So if we consider the possibility of another 30% drop in Bitcoin's price, just think where that would take us. It would be projecting all the way down to around $76,405. That's no small move. And that's exactly what some in the crypto community are thinking might happen. A 30% drop. That's the level they expect Bitcoin might revisit, a technical anchor point. And to be honest, it wouldn't be that crazy from a technical analysis perspective. Why not see it as part of a larger macro reaccumulation phase? What I'm trying to say is, it wouldn't be outrageous. Just take a look at this previous 30% crash. Some analysts are saying we might see the same type of drop again in this very specific and familiar context. But of course, what the average retail investor thinks or what the media reports is one thing. What we at Crypto Insight believe is something else entirely. Let's first look back at what happened in 2024, that sharp 30% drop. Look at how violent the move was. The price tanked. But now take a closer look at the volume during that drop. What we're seeing is a massive, aggressive wave of market selling. But here's the key. That sell-off didn't really succeed in pushing the price much lower. In other words, the crash following the 2024 Bitcoin conference, it was manipulated. And when that drop became obvious, when it became dramatic, that's when the smart money stepped in and absorbed all that panic selling triggered by retail fear. And in the end, if you're paying attention, that whole dramatic move was used to set up this, I remember clearly, it was a textbook market trap inside a large-scale descending channel. And think about what they did back in 2024. I'm drawing the channel here so it's crystal clear, and how they set up that trap. I remember how around that time we were already warning about a potential market trap, a setup, a move that was projecting just that. And now the million-dollar question is, how are they going to use this current event, the one making headlines everywhere, the 2025 Bitcoin conference? Because let me tell you, U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis is at this conference, and what she's basically done is connect the dots of everything we already know the U.S. is doing in terms of crypto regulation. Also in attendance, Michael Saylor, Donald Trump Jr., and Eric Trump. And of course, expectations are sky high. They're going to say some very nice things. Lummis has made it clear the Trump administration is actively working on legislation related to stablecoins, the crypto market structure, and even a strategic Bitcoin reserve. She confirmed that President Donald Trump supports the Bitcoin bill and has a team of experts inside the White House working on what could become historic legislation for crypto in the coming weeks. This is all coming directly from Senator Lummis. In fact, back in March, she reintroduced what's being called the Bitcoin bill, a historic piece of legislation that mandates the U.S. government to acquire 1 million Bitcoin over the next 5 years. And the plan is to fund these purchases using existing resources from the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department. At the Bitcoin conference, Senator Lummis said the Trump administration has a dedicated team working on crypto legislation, including bills around stablecoins, overall market structure, and the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Pay close attention to what she said specifically. These initiatives will likely be rolled out in that order. The Senate Banking Committee has already passed the stablecoin bill out of committee. We're very close to bringing it to a full vote. She said they've spent countless hours working with the minority party to come to agreement, and the vote could take place the week right before the end of this recess. So we're seeing how the Trump administration is building bridges between the U.S., the world's largest economic power, and what could be a very promising future for Bitcoin. But here's the thing, it wouldn't be the first time that right after a wave of overwhelmingly positive news, like hearing Senator Lummis praise everything Trump and his team are doing, institutions turn around and use that moment to trigger a crypto crash. Something that, as we've already seen, is exactly what happened at the 2024 conference. What do you think? That people were saying pessimistic things things about Bitcoin at that conference? Come on. Events like that are echo chambers. Everyone gets together, pats each other on the back, feels good about themselves, and basically repeats the same ideas from the same optimistic perspective. So no, we're not here to argue whether 2025 is going to play out exactly like 2024, but first...
Welcome to Crypto Insight, your ethical and moral channel for cryptocurrency technical analysis. Here, we really know what we're talking about. We conduct advanced technical analysis that has been developed for over 12 years. We upload videos several times a week. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, let me know and leave a comment with your opinion. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell so you don't miss the next opportunity.
Now, do we really believe that we're going to see a massive crypto crash, a 30% drop? Honestly, that seems like a stretch. And I'll tell you right now, that's not the direction I'm looking toward. Let's break down Bitcoin's current context. As you can see, we're in a clear bullish trend. The last major impulse started back in November 2024, right after we saw a complex corrective pattern. And that corrective structure, it was basically a wedge, a deceleration of the bearish momentum that came before it. That structure triggered what we call a black swan event, and it's been the fuel behind the entire crypto rally since April 2025. And let's not forget about the institutional target. Every major distribution process has one. Those big investment funds work with very specific price levels in mind. And yes, we know how to calculate them. At the time, I remember we were calculating that exact zone, and right there we identified the end of the Z wave within the corrective pattern, that same wedge. And let's not ignore the fact that distribution did happen here. That's important. But what's even more important is what happened next. Bitcoin formed a textbook black swan and then just kept climbing. The real takeaway here is this. After that black swan, which projected a strong bullish continuation, Bitcoin didn't just survive, it overpowered the massive wall of sellers that had been established during the distribution phase that ran from November 2024 to February 2025. In other words, we're shaking off all that bearish pressure. And now, the ones in control of the crypto market, it's the bulls, the buyers, the ones who've been loading up, betting that Bitcoin would appreciate. And guess what? So far, they're winning. That's why Bitcoin is sitting at an all-time high. And that's why at Crypto Insight, we're still fully exposed to the upside, holding spot positions across the crypto ecosystem. Now, if we zoom in and take a look at what's happened after that black swan, say on the 1 hour time frame, what we see is a powerful, determined uptrend. And the part that really catches my eye, this zone of defense. A price level that's been clearly defended by large institutional players. Look closely at how price action has behaved here. It's defined a level that for some strange or curious reason, every time it's been tested, it's completely failed to break above. It's tried, but it hasn't succeeded. That's why we see the $10,200 level is absolutely critical for Bitcoin. And so when people start talking about Bitcoin crashing 30% just because that's what happened after the 2024 conference, it feels like a bit of a stretch. Honestly, before we even talk about a crash like that, we need to look at what the buying force is doing. And by buying force, I'm talking about the big institutional players who bought Bitcoin here and have been reaccumulating ever since. It just seems much more reasonable and way more responsible to first give these institutional players the benefit of the doubt. Let's see if they're going to defend the position they've clearly been building in the market before we jump into wild predictions like Bitcoin is going to drop 30%. Let's be clear. It's not saying it's impossible. Anything can happen. No one knows exactly what's coming tomorrow. That's a fact. What I am saying is that before a 30% crash, we'd very likely see a series of signals, indicators, resistances, institutional footprints that would warn us first. And if we look at MicroStrategy, we can actually spot a complex corrective pattern here, very similar to what's happening in Bitcoin. We've got the W, a weak Y, and then this whole thing is a Z. That Z is crashing right into its own trend line. That trend line of the Z, it's not just a random line. It could define the short-term direction of the crypto ecosystem. Not because MicroStrategy controls anything, but because MicroStrategy mirrors Bitcoin so clearly. If you want to know what Bitcoin might do, MicroStrategy is often the cleanest chart to look at. So we're evaluating the same structure here. We're seeing a downward impulse, then a W, a poor Y, and a Z that just completed. The wedge has broken. It's come right up against the Z trend line, which we've now made dynamic, and that's a critical area. As long as that area holds, the signal is clear. We should continue prioritizing bullish direction. That's why I said there are enough indicators right now to keep following Bitcoin's upward movement. No need to lose our minds thinking the price is just going to collapse 30% out of nowhere. I remain positive on the crypto ecosystem. And here at Crypto Insight, we're still 100% exposed to the crypto market. Now tell me, what do you think about the 2025 Bitcoin conference? Do you think this event will trigger a massive market drop just like it did in 2024, only to then reverse and start a major bullish run? Are you long-term bullish or bearish on Bitcoin? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this advanced technical analysis, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that little bell so YouTube can notify you when we post new content. Best of luck with your investments, and see you next time.